really big abuse moment I remember happening was when I was 4. And that is a really young age to have a memory about. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because Michael Johnson in the video said that children can consent.
Reagan made a big issue about children can't consent, but children can say no. Children can say, again, unless it's a parent and they're in fear, but if it's another child.
And that made me very angry because even adult women who are sexually assaulted often freeze up, or they get really scared, or they even go along with the abuse that's happening to them because they are terrified they are going to be hurt. Hearing him say that fills me with a lot of anger, righteous anger, for 2 reasons. One, the cult we were raised in taught us you are not allowed to say no to anyone. You can't say no to a relative if they want a hug from you, even if you're uncomfortable. You can't say no to your parent. God forbid you say no to your parent. It never crossed my mind once to ever tell my parent no.
Go do this, and if you don't do it right away, or if you don't come right when I'm calling you to the breakfast table, you are disobedient, and that's a spanking. Delayed obedience, that's a beating. I'm sorry, delayed obedience is disobedience, and you're getting a beating for that.
So the no, you couldn't say no. You weren't allowed to say no. And so I was coerced into a graphic sexual encounter. I don't know what else to call it. I'm not going to go into details because there's no reason to. I was 4 though, and I was coerced into this by my older siblings, and I was hiding. I remember vividly hiding in the closet because I felt uncomfortable and I didn't want to do it. And I don't actually have the memory of doing it. I just know that I did. And then I remember that afterwards, somehow, Mom found out that we were doing this. I think one of the younger siblings told her, actually. And she found out, and she was cooking dinner at the time. So we were all upstairs by ourselves. So I do know that she yelled at us and that she was waving around whatever utensil she was using for dinner, which I can understand the shame and the horror of finding your children doing this thing. But it's not the children's fault necessarily. If they're doing this, then something really bad has had to have happened to them. If I came across my kids doing this, right, I would be horrified as well.
Anger at your children is not the right response in that moment.
No, it's
anger at yourself, anger at whoever exposed them, but not your own children, because they don't fully understand what's going on.
Right. Who has done this to my children to give them this idea in the first place? Where did they get this idea? Because it wasn't a normal childhood development sexual curiosity.
Right. Like my boys have. You don't remember the actual incident, but Haley remembers it, and the other sibling did, because Haley was also coerced by that same sibling in that event.
I just remember Mom yelling at us. I did not get spanked for that. I believe you got beaten for that, right, Haley?
Yeah.
So that was one of the battery against the child.
Yeah, that was
that was different than the regular spanking, is what happened to me in that moment.
So probably should clarify what we're talking about. So I'm gonna play that video.
Take my word for it.
Yeah.
Michael Johnson, their pastor, agrees that physical abuse took place.
We all need to be careful as well.
So I'll pause and give clarification. So most of this meeting was discussing the allegations that I made in my video to Terry, and here is saying that they I was too harsh when I described them as beatings, that they were actually spankings, and that's the context here.
Because watching Reagan's video and hearing every time one of the kids got spanked, it was replaced with the word beat, and they were beaten for it. Yes, there was some.
One quick thing. So whenever whenever kids were spanked in our home, the rule was you had to hold your ankles.
Okay.
Hands down. Hold your ankles. Hands on your ankles.
Hands on your ankles.
Yes. And if you and it was 10 whacks, but if you let go, they would start over. That hurts. You could get upwards 50 to 70 whacks per thing. If you
or PD.
Yes.
Pardon?
With a hand, a belt, or a PD pipe.
Yeah.
Whatever it's about.
So that's what we mean by beating. That's not a spanking anymore. That's you.
No, that would not. I would agree. That's not a spanking. Okay.
No.
So.
And there were just times we would just have to block out what's going on in the bathroom because the kid's just screaming and you can't do anything about it. So that's what we mean by beating. Whenever that word gets used, that is what we mean.
Did you experience that? Did you get that?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what's how you remember it? Hold your
Yeah,
ankles. If you turn loose, you're gonna get more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think every parent at some point has probably spanked in anger. Instead of taking a step back, we try to send our boys to the room and then we cool off and then we go talk to them about the infraction, why they need the discipline, and then we would apply it in a measured way. Okay. So yeah, I can't say that's not appropriate. I mean, if the infraction is that bad, it's time to get some help. It's time to get some help. Okay, it's time to get some help.
So yeah, that's what we were talking about when we talk about beatings. They aren't just spankings. And
Yes.
again, like Pastor Johnson didn't seem to understand what the siblings were trying to tell him, because it wasn't just that the infraction was that bad. It was like you guys were playing hide and seek.
In the laundry baskets.
And you weren't allowed to, and Mackenzie was hiding the laundry baskets and she wasn't supposed to. So she got beaten like that for it.
Well, both were. I just didn't say I
Right,
was.
but she's the one that got.
So that's why I remember the instance and you don't, because I didn't get the beating, but I just lived with the guilt for not taking responsibility for what I'd done. Because I was just like, I can't have another one today. I can't.
And then he's saying if you turn loose, no, it's just if you barely let go of your ankles. So it was even worse.
Yeah.
Than he was.
When I watched the Shiny Happy People and saw one of the speakers at one of their conferences, the IBLP conferences, bring a child from the audience that wasn't even his kid up to the stage to demonstrate spanking, and he put him over his knee and was like pretend spanking him over his bottom, and he made him hug him, and then he said, "I don't think you hugged daddy hard enough," because he was pretending to be his dad in this case. And then he pretended to spank him again, and the audience is just laughing and thinking this is so funny. And then the kid hugs him more and he's like, "That's what I'm talking about." And everyone's clapping and cheering. And I was crying. And I looked at my husband. I said, "That's what it was like. You were forced to be affectionate to your parent after they just beat you." A lot of families that Michael Johnson pastored. And I say that in quotations because when you're shepherding a flock, you should shepherd them, not let this stuff fly by right under your nose. You should know about this stuff.
There's like 11 different families.
11, at least that we know of, that were under his
Michael
care.
Johnson, if you're watching this, you should resign as a pastor. I don't know how you can keep going on being a pastor and have this rampant abuse and physical abuse, sexual abuse going on in your congregation and think it
Many of the children that were sitting under your care, your sermons each week, have contacted Haley and told them about the horrific things that were happening while they were there in your church. And you should feel so ashamed that you used God's word and the pulpit that you had to allow this to happen. You created a system. You helped foster a system where the men had all the power and all the voice and all the ability to speak, and the women were shunned into silence and told to be quiet and submissive and gentle and meek and just go along with whatever the man wanted, because he's the head of the home and he needs to be obeyed. And you created a hierarchy there, and women were not treated with value under your care, and children even less so. We had no voice, we had no rights, we had no value. You can say you're pro-life all you want, but until I see some proof where you actually stand up against the injustice done to the children, pro-life doesn't mean when they're just in the womb. You should be pro-life for everything. You should be against animal abuse. There's so much rampant animal abuse in our home as well. Just horrific. But you should be protecting children after they're out of the womb as well. It was like, once you're born, you're here, so take care of yourself.
Children can consent, so that's your own fault, Mackenzie. You should have said no.
But when you teach children that when you say no, you beat them, no, children can't consent. They can only comply.
Yeah, obviously,
That is a
children can't.
completely
I thought
different
everyone
thing.
knew that. I thought that was common sense if you cared about children.
I care so much about children. If I found out that something, I have thought in the past that something might have happened to them, and I was livid. I was so livid. I would go to jail if someone hurt my children like that, if someone abused my children that way. The rage, the just anger against the injustice. The children are the most vulnerable of our society, and they were the least valued. We were gone hours of the
Some of
day.
you guys tried to get help. Some of you did speak up and were shut down by members of the church.
Yeah.
I know Haley
Yes.
did.
Yeah. I was instantly told, don't ever say that again.
I know another sibling tried to get the kids out of the home. They tried to get help from another family in the church to get the children out of the home, but then nothing happened.
Yeah. We're always silenced back into submission. If it was just our family, too bad. We got bad parents. We got a bad one. We got a streak of bad luck. Too bad. But it's not just our family. That's the problem. And that's why we have to say something, because it wasn't
Anymore.
I wish it was just our family. I wish we were just one screwed up mess. I wish it was just because our parents had horrible childhoods themselves, which they always reminded us of. At least you didn't have my childhood.
But I mean, how many siblings are there total?
11, including the adopted one.
And like every single one of you have been sexually abused. Not
To
mention
my
all your-
knowledge, I know every single girl. I don't know if every single boy, but based on,
Yeah.
I think every one of my siblings has experienced something. I mean, you can't live in a home that has that rampant. I mean, it's so many instances. It just, like Emily said in the recording, it has touched every one of us. I don't think she meant that ironically, but it is ironic that she used the word touched.
Yeah, as far as the sexual abuse goes, like every single one of us has been touched by it.
But yeah, everyone has been affected by it, and there has been no justice.